Welcome to the beautiful city of Athens, the gateway to the Tennessee Valley, a city rooted in deep community relationships and built on a rich tradition of small local business and the very best of the human spirit. As Athens embraces the future, the signs of progress are in full bloom. Join us as we discover the bright spots in this charming southern city that we call home. This is Hometown Heartbeat, Athens. What's going on, everybody? Today's Friday, and it's not Friday. It's wishful thinking. Today is Thursday. Nope. Before we introduce our guest, let us first check in with our producers extraordinaire. Well, we got producer and producer junior, but Connor Davis, what's going on over there, boys?
Not much.
Hold on a minute. There you are.
The mic's down. Of course it is. Hello. We're doing good.
Connor's got him a new mic today.
Yeah, this thing's fancy.
Well, it's because we stole it from the church, but other than that, Davis, we can't hear you because you don't get a mic on this show until you're this tall and you can ride the ride. I'm kidding. But give us hand signals or something. You doing okay over there, buddy? Hand signals. There they are. Good deal. Today, as promised, we told you on Tuesday that Ronald and I had I was going to say disagreement, but that in this world insinuates that you hate one another. So we saw things maybe a little bit different, and we said we're going to hash that out live on the show on Thursday. And so here we are, Ronald. Whatever.
Keep going.
No, that's it. That's all I got. Hey,
you don't want to stroke my ego anymore?
Could you do me a favor and move the monitor this way so that I don't have to look all the way over there? No, your ego is plenty. Yours and mine both. Our ego. Let's say our.
We couldn't be in the same room together. It's a good thing that we're in separate states.
It just needs to come all the way over here. Sorry, I'm adjusting my. It's been a busy day, so I didn't quite get as prepared as I'd hoped.
It's okay. I prepared all the questions for you.
That's good because I don't. That's good right there. Thank you. I don't know how this is going to go.
Well, I don't know how it's going to go either. I don't think I actually did what you asked. I went back and I listened to the podcast again this morning. I actually woke up at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, listened to the podcast for an hour, and then wrote down some questions. I don't think we disagreed as much as you thought we did, but there were a couple things that I thought would be that we could pick on a little bit and kind of hash out.
Well, what's interesting about this is, and good afternoon to you, Mr. Rigsby, our best fan. Robert, how are you, buddy? It's good to see you here as always. Robert, just every day, man. He's just here. He shows up. He listens. He contributes. He's a real American patriot. That's all I have to say about that. So last night I got a text from one of my buddies, and it was interesting because our conversation today and where we're headed, and then obviously the conversation that this guy and I had last night. So he reached out, and it's a guy that I respect. He's a mentor for me in my life. He was one of the first men that poured into me when I got saved, and really took a chance on me and allowed me to become greatly involved in a ministry that God had called him to be a part of, a full count up in Tennessee. But Jacob and I, he's the guy that when my life gets out of whack, it's my wife's like, hey, have you talked to Jacob? And so Jacob texted me yesterday afternoon and was like, I've got something I disagree. Let me tell you what I disagree with. I think that's how he started it. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. I said, so yeah, hit me. What you got? And so we talked through this, the Jesus. There were some Jesus things that we were talking through in terms of my response, his response, Jesus's response, and it was just this cool moment where we spent an hour on the phone talking through, and I finally was like, Jake, you need to jump on here once a week, dude. You need to that's exactly. And he was like, well, it might not be very popular. It might not be very popular down here in the deep South, where where opinions that are maybe not Trumpisms or whatever don't. Oh goodness, I gotta move my chair. All right, there we go.
You're right there, big guy?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I was trying to move my chair, but then I realized I was fat. So, it's one of those things where we can disagree and we can work through this stuff. And again, Ronald's known me since I was
7th, 8th grade. Earlier than that?
Yeah, it was earlier than that. It was 3rd grade. is when we moved to Virginia. Yeah.
Wow. What year was that?
So I graduated high school in '05 at 18. I don't know how old are you in the third grade, so we can back into
Well,
that.
well, what I'm saying though is I only moved to DC in 2000.
So then we knew
So
each other since 2000. So 20 years we've known each
okay.
other. And so like there's nothing Ronald's going to say or I'm going to say that is going to change our relationship, because you just can't. Like we didn't talk for like 10 or 15 years outside of a Facebook, a like or a post or a response to a comment or something like that. There was no conversation. And when we talked for the first time in 15 years, it was like we spent an hour catching up, and then it was like we were right back where we were. And so
let's be honest, Zach. You talked for 45 minutes. I talked for maybe 15.
Ronald, most days I would allow that, but anyone that's watched this show with you as a guest would know that you were lying. And so I would say I'll meet you in the middle at like 38 and 22.
Done.
All right.
Fair enough. I'll take it.
Gerald Reynolds joining us, the owner of Outlaw Off-Road, my favorite mechanic shop over there. They work on a lot of vehicles that are big and beastly and awesome. And he's actually he's in a series. It's called Kingdom Crawl, I think it is. Gerald, if I get this wrong, call me out. But man, I checked it out the other day. So he's got this big Jeep. It's called Carnage, and it's redonkulous. But anyways, Gerald's he's always done right by me, and so just shout out to Gerald. There he is. What's up, buddy? Speaking of Gerald, I need you to get with me on something. I need a favor. So let's dive into this. All right, Ronald, you woke up and you listened to the podcast and you said, I'm going to do my due diligence and I'm going to come into this prepared, which is better than you and I can say for any other time, pretty much in our entire life. Probably.
I know, which might make this like horrible. People might listen to it and be like, you know what? Never prepare anything ever again.
I'm probably going to lean that way, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So hit me. What?
All right, man.
Let's dive into it.
The first thing that jumped out at me, and I went through it, and I kind of listened to the podcast. I wrote down some questions that maybe you and I disagree with, and then I kind of ranked them in let's call it things that I might disagree with most, or at least statements that you made that I might call you out on, that I'd be curious what your clarification would be. And the first one was, you'd mentioned about the cop that ended up killing George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Your statement was, hanging him from a tree is not good enough. And I was curious, do you really
are you gonna go CNN on me here and twist and contort? Like, here's what we need to do next time we do this. We need to let you submit to Connor so he can pull the audio. So he can pull the audio so that we could play it in context. Because what I said was,
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm just giving you our time. But so in the context of that conversation, like we're talking about how, I think if I remember correctly, it was in the line of like, we are, when this started, I've not seen anybody that disagreed with this. Like, it was murder, no doubt. Like, and no, I don't agree. Like, that sentiment is exactly what my brothers and sisters that are black and yellow and green all over the country, the anger that comes with watching evil, that to me personally, like, I don't care if he gets a death penalty. I mean, he took a life. And so what I was trying to evoke there, and again, for those of you that are watching or listening for the first time, this is commentary, right? This is my opinion, and this is I let you know when there's a fact, or when we report facts, certainly, but when I'm talking, I'm very clear to let you know this is just what I think. So I would say that, like, from a biblical or from my perspective as a Christian, like, no, I don't want the man to hang from a tree, but the concept being, we all were on the same page when we saw this. Like, he blatantly and obviously took, and they've upgraded charges from murder 3 to murder 2, right? And so they've charged the other 3 officers.
And they charged all
That's
4,
right.
Yeah.
And so my I guess what I was trying to get across there isn't a penalty harsh enough in my mind for what that man did. And I say that because I want everyone to understand, before we start rioting and looting and tearing down, burning down cities, like, I've never seen, honestly, maybe a more unified position of people in regards to in every other situation, Ahmaud Arbery, the I Can't Breathe, and the DVD selling guy, and this, and all the cases of the quote unquote alleged police brutality. Well, it's certainly police brutality, but racist or not, whatever. You always have division. You've got some white people over here, or some green people, or yellow people that don't see it the same way as that color guy does, and very rarely. I mean, even with Ahmaud Arbery, which I have a really hard time with that. If you watch that video and you see anything other than blatant and overt racism and a crime being committed, you need to check your heart, I think. But I've never seen people more together on a topic like this. This is a very divisive issue, and so it was like, wow, we can all unify behind, bro, that was wrong. Like, that was flat out wrong. And so in that moment, very impassioned, I said, I think I followed that with the firing line, right? Bring back the firing line.
Bring back the firing squad.
Yeah, firing squad.
And
And the firing squad is something that I still would not. I mean, I would probably still agree with that comment, because I think that's a great way to handle the death penalty. But
speaking of firing squad, you ever seen Faces of Death?
No.
Did you ever watch that series? That series was big when I was in college. It went through, and I wouldn't look it up. If you've never seen it, if you like, you know what? Never. I don't even. Know
Why'd you bring that up? Why'd you bring that up?
Faces of Death. It's a series about watching people die.
That's weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we watched it in college. And it's one of those things. Anyways, one of them I remember vividly. The one that I remember most was a gentleman in front of a firing squad, and it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch.
Faces of Death, like it's actual.
Faces of Death. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like actual film of people.
It's actual film of people dying. It's like clips after clips after clips. There's one about I remember one with the guy getting stepped on with an elephant. The firing squad is a big one that I remember, and there's just other random.
Why would
things,
they do
but
this?
It's huh?
Why would they
Because people are sick. I don't know. Well, I mean, it's obviously I watched it too, so I don't.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
you
know.
watched it in college.
Intriguing.
But
no, that's off topic though, right?
yeah, no, it is. But no, so basically, I mean,
kind of getting back to your thought,
ahead.
like let me say this. When you said that, I definitely thought that it was commentary. I didn't think that you truly meant, let's just hang them out without any type of trial and
due
hang 'em up
process,
from the
right?
tree. Exactly, right. I definitely took it that way. But one of the things that even you just now said, and this kind of gets to where I am, and again, I'm not with everybody. I don't feel like I'm trying to take sides on one way or the other, but when I look at that video, because of how I am currently made, and I don't know why, I think to myself that I'm an apologist, right? And the way that I define apologist is I typically take the side that's not as popular, and I sympathize with them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at that video, I see a bunch of people around a cop that has drug this guy out unfairly. Probably the way he's treating him is unfair, but you got all these people that now have their camera phones out, and this guy is probably in his mind thinking, what the hell is going on? What am I doing? Can he remember his training at that point? Can he remember, anything? His heart is probably going a million miles a minute. It doesn't make what he did right.
Sure.
At all. I wonder if it makes it murder.
So I would think, and hey, Dave. Oh, somebody got it. So I heard somebody come in the office, and I was going to say somebody step outside and see who that is, but Leah's here. So, so let me go back to what you said. So you said, does it make it murder? And here's the thing. So at the time of the podcast that you were listening to, we didn't have the information we have now. And so that's big, right? Because now we know a lot of things that are making it look worse and worse and worse. Like, for instance, there is at a minimum a pre-existing relationship, if not a motive, right, that may exist, that the cop knew the man and the man knew the cop, and yada, yada, yada. And so there are some things that come out. But I would go back to my training as a and I think was it you and I that talked about this, about how military, the accountability that they have and what they're held to, like it prevent. Okay, so in the fog of war is what we would call that, right? I mean, it's the same concept. It's
high pressure
situations, but the answer is you absolutely, like, even to this day, when I'm faced with certain situations, whether let's say I'm hunting, right, and a big buck walks out, like that is an adrenaline inducing situation. I'm not by any stretch putting those two in the same, but my firearms training that I was taught when I was in the military is second nature to me still, and I've not served in years and years and years as an active duty soldier. Cops, if he was unable to resort to his training in that situation, he ought not be a cop. And so yes, it's still murder because falling asleep behind the wheel and hitting somebody, that's still, I mean, it's manslaughter for sure. But in a lot of cases, I mean, they can produce some malicious whatever. I mean, I don't think there's any way around that was murder. I don't think there's any way around that because there are multiple things that happen. One, if you look at the transcript, you hear one of the other cops say, like, hey, man, we probably ought to, like, and I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it was like, hey, let's let him up. Like, let's do something else. First of all, he was in the back of the car already restrained and fine. And then we decided to pull him out, I guess, to rough him up. I don't know. And then we rip him out and we put it. So again, I don't see any way around that being.
There's absolutely, in my mind, there's absolutely a possibility that in his mind, he maybe a little bit premeditated and did something very malicious. But I also think to myself, too, that there is a possibility, maybe it's a smaller possibility, that he was just so caught up on adrenaline and nervous. I don't know if nervous is the right word, but just, but you're absolutely right. Cops that can't handle that situation, I agree, they shouldn't be cops, right? But I don't know that, I think one of the reasons that I don't want to say I'm not going to give him a pass for what he did, but one of the reasons that I sometimes lean on that side is because I don't know that all of the humans that are condemning him could also be in that situation without reacting poorly.
No, that's a fact. And that's a good point.
I think that's why I feel for him and his family at very least, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I feel for him anymore any less than George Floyd and his family. And some people might say, well, you should feel more for George Floyd. And I'm like, to tell you the truth, I don't know either one of them personally. So I'll probably just, end up loving them the same, unless I get into that. So that was kind of my thought on that.
No, you're right. And look, here's the deal. Like, and we got some more joining us. Scott Johnston. We got some. What's going on, Scott? Glad you could join us today, man. It's one of those things where I think Chris Rock said it the best, right? Like he was like, there are certain occupations where you can't have less than proficient, right? If an airline pilot says, I'm gonna land sometimes, like it doesn't work. And being a law enforcement officer is one of the things where, again, I'm not saying they can't make mistakes. They will make mistakes. But the mistakes, if they end up being fatal and wrongfully fatal or remotely or harmful or whatever, like, again, I go back to my military thing. Like, if you squeeze the trigger down range and you hit a kid or whatever, especially since, after the first 4 or 5 years over there anyways, it'll ruin a career. It'll end your service. They'll put you in, they have their own law enforcement, right? And so anyways, I just think that we have to hold them to a higher standard than that. And if they're incapable of performing under pressure, they should probably not be in a line of work where you have the ability to react to pressure in a way that will take someone's life from them that you can't then return at any point. Like, you can't come back from that. And like, there's no way to undo a mistake that ends that way. So, I hear what you're saying completely, and I don't disagree with you at all on that. But it's also one of those things where it's like that's not an option for that line of work,
No, I agree with that. I mean, it's definitely, I don't know if I'd go all the way to say it's not an option. I definitely hear you and agree, but I think the way that our police are trained, and I don't know as much about it, but they're not put in high pressure situations. Like, I don't know if you know, but the Fairfax County Police Department, which is the county I live in Loudoun County now. There was a shooting of a cop maybe 5 years ago. I think it was after you left. And if I remember correctly, it was the first shooting of a cop ever in Fairfax County. Something like, it was something ridiculous like that. It was something like so random that you're like, what? And it just went back to tell me that it's like a lot of these cops aren't put in
Mm-hmm.
the situations, and how do you really train for a situation like that? And I think that's another thing that I think about is like it's really hard. Like I completely get what you're saying, and it's like if you can't handle that situation, you shouldn't be a cop. But then again, how do you know if you can handle it?
No, it's what training's for. I mean, honestly, that's what it. I mean, that they put you in such high pressure situations in training to see how you react. I mean, you go through a ton of. I mean, and I've never been through cop training. I don't know. I would hope that their training is quite rigorous, but no, maybe. And we talked about that, right? Training and de-escalation training and all the different things that are available, like those. That should be a focus of where we put our efforts into the reform of all this. But it, I don't know. I really don't. But
Yeah.
let's move to number 2 on the list and see where we.
Number two is kind of similar, but you had mentioned that backwoods people, do we find them and fix them? I don't. You didn't say we have to hunt them down and find them and fix
So
them.
no,
Do
okay,
we
that's a
find
good
them
one.
and fix them?
That's a good one. So that is in context there. What that was saying is like I think that was with the illustration I was using of like there are a lot of people outside of the state of Alabama. Like for instance, if I've met someone from California or whatever, and their immediate preconception of me is he's a backwoods redneck, probably dated his cousin once and before he knew it was her, whatever, hopefully didn't kiss her, has
I
a
think
cow that
did
he
happen, right?
dated, like, and I'm being facetious, but we're all Trump loving, Bible toting, gun thumping, whatever. And the reality is like, that's a racial profile in and of itself, at a minimum of prejudice. Right. And so, the point was like I can react to that in one of two ways. I can react to that and be angry that Mr. California or Mrs. California is profiling me, or I can be honest with myself and accept the fact that the reason they feel that way is because there have been people before me and there will be people after me that absolutely are exactly what they are saying that I am. They are backwoods, redneck, bumpkin, racist pricks. And my contention is, as a white conservative male from Alabama, I have a responsibility to do my best, and I think it's our biblical responsibility, quite frankly, right, to disciple and to go and preach to the nations, right? And so in doing that, this accomplishes itself, which is probably where I was going with this. I just didn't take it full thought, right? But I do think I have a responsibility to accept and be honest about the fact that people view me a certain way because they've met someone like me that acted a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's fair. And so what's my reaction to that? Well, my reaction is let's go try to fix the problem, which is the people that are truly the way you think I am. And then hopefully that'll change the way that you look at me.
Yeah. No, I went to California about 2 years ago with my whole family, and I have 3 kids, so me and my wife and 3 kids, that makes 5 if you can do the math that quick.
Didn't even
So
have to
we
take my
went.
shoe off.
I know, right? So we went to San Francisco because my middle son loves Alcatraz, and so that was kind of our whole crux of our trip to kind of go there. And
Sure.
anyway, I had a great thought that my wife vetoed to kind of get around that stereotype. I thought about buying these big bright red shirts. I was going to be the T, she was going to be the R.
Oh, Lord.
My daughter was going to be the U, son M, and then my other son P. Right, just to see what would happen, like kind of like a social experiment. But she vetoed that, I guess.
Aaron,
That's
if you're
probably,
listening or watching, thank you for that.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
The whole world thanks you for that.
Yeah, probably. But it would have been an interesting social experiment.
I don't
But
know that I don't know that I agree. I think it would
No?
have been. You know what?
infuriate people.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and for those of you that are out there listening, that are rioting and protesting and all that stuff, like, hey, listen. You can de-escalate, or you can provoke, right? And it's like Drew Brees, and I wanted to talk about that today. I'm glad you went there because it was a perfect segue. And we have to be tight on time today because I have another appointment, so we've got 15 minutes left. But Drew Brees and his comments, okay? Connor, pull that up if you can. Let's see. I want to get his quote exactly right here. Drew Brees comments, because I don't want to twist this at all.
Yeah, I actually read that today as well.
Well, within 24 hours, he's already come out and apologized. Which, again, I still don't know that is the right thing to do. He said, "I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America." But he later said he stands with his teammates fighting for racial equality, but he also stands with the military. That is a spot-on stance to me.
As far as what he says?
Yes, when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for his all these people down here, well, we're by God, we're boycotting the NFL, and that's your right to do so. And honestly,
Yep.
it worked. They responded to that because the NFL revenues and yada yada went way down, and so like that worked. That was an effective protest means, and guess what? They have a right to do that. Me, where I stand on it, I don't give a rip who kneels, when, what, where. Like, I didn't sign up to only protect people and go serve people that looked, acted, and felt like me. Like, I signed up to protect the country. And honestly, for all of you guys out there that are like, oh, cops are bad, cops are this, cops are that, like, those cops, they're not out there to protect you. They're not, I mean, I know that's what they're supposed to be, but what happens in the camaraderie and brotherhood of service is you really just become about protecting the guy next to you. And so it really, like, the duty part of it is less about the country or the police department or whatever it is that you're serving, and more about those guys that you become brothers with there in the foxhole with you, more or less. And so Drew Brees, like, yes, Drew, I agree with you, bro. Like, I do. I think he nailed it. I don't like people disrespecting the flag. I also hate police brutality. And if Colin Kaepernick wants to kneel, freaking kneel, man. Like, kneel. If you want to burn a flag, burn it. If I see you, I'm going to try to get the flag. I'm going to try to get it before you burn it because I don't believe in disrespecting the flag. But you also have the right to do that. What Breeze missed was the insensitivity of the timing, right? Like probably not a good time to make that proclamation, regardless of whether it's true or not. And that's kind of what I was saying about what you were like. It's all about, you can provoke or you can de-escalate, right? And provocation doesn't have to be wearing TRUMP through California. It can be making a statement that is absolutely accurate, but choosing when to make that statement. And you know, there are times to take the hill and die on the hill, and there are times to let the hill go. You know, and it yeah.
No, I mean, kind of getting back to one of the other things you said, though, as far as do we find them and fix them, I think part of this goes to the way that I just view my Christianity and maybe even view this thing, you know, altogether, too, is the fact that, you know, people could, again, kind of going back to something I said on Tuesday, people could definitely argue the theology of this with me 100%, because I am not going to sit here and tell you that I know theology extremely well, right? But I would say that too many times we focus on trying to fix people and fix their issues as opposed to just simply sharing love and sharing the gospel with them. Right. I mean, let me tell you, so I'll admit one of my faults. A long time ago, I was unfaithful to my wife, and all the people that came up to me and said something along the lines of, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. I was like, screw you, dude. I don't care what you say. Because that's not where I was at. So it definitely goes to your point of, you know, understanding your audience and understanding the timing too. But the people that just came up to me and they said, I walk with you through this, I know what you're dealing with, I love you and everything like that, those are the people that really really got to me and really kind of helped me change my mind. And so that's the thing, man. And it goes back to one of the statements I made on social media or about social media towards the end of the last thing is it's just like, we're not changing anybody's minds with the statements that we make until we really get to know them in their lives. I'm not going to change Colin Kaepernick. But you know why? Because I don't know Colin Kaepernick. I'm not going to change Drew Brees. I'm not going to change George. I'm not going to change the cop that killed George Floyd. I'm not going to change any of those people because I don't know them.
Reel it back in.
Yeah, I know. I almost, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, got it. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, too many times we sit here and we complain and argue and bicker, and it's like, are you getting into anybody's life? Are you trying to make a difference? And 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, the answer is no.
That's fact. No, and the other part of this is like, hey, white people that are, what's the right word here? Placating, that are
You might have to define that one for me.
There's the bigger word that I'm trying to get to, but I didn't never really do well on tests. So no, but when you like white people, when you take to your keyboard to express your tons and tons of support, understand a couple of things. One, that's almost tone deaf, okay? To people that have been persecuted in their whether real or accurate, whether whatever. And this is not just before you send me your angry email. Like, I'm not just talking about race. I'm talking about in general. To people that have been persecuted, hurt, targeted, attacked, whatever, by any systematically or for time, whatever. Like, for you to just now all of a sudden, like, there's a right way and a wrong way to listen and to engage and talking doesn't, in my opinion, look good on you right now. And I see a lot of it. I see a lot of it in pastors. I see a lot of it in people that there's almost it's almost like there's something. Yeah, one there's the biblical side of it and the gospel side of it that's right. Like, absolutely, we all need to be seeking to combat brutality and evil of any kind. But there's almost like it's an opportunity to look, in today's society, we're all about gaining some followers or getting some more people to the church or having a bigger church or whatever. And it's like you've stayed silent on this for however long. And then now, because again, when this started, there was no division, right? We were all on the same page. This was awful. And now is your opportunity to jump out there, because you can do it and not piss off everybody on one side of the aisle, because, hey, we're all in agreement here, okay? And then on the other side of it, you want to run way off too far to the other side. It's like you can't become one of the persecuted by just saying I'm with you, right? So, and I'm dancing around this because I don't want to be too direct about it, because there are a lot of people that would be directly in the line of fire here, and so, and that's not my intent. But my intent, like my hope is, like, Christians, white Christians, black Christians, Christians all over. Because, by the way, believers, there's one race, there's ethnicity, but there's one race. Seek to listen passively, in a way, and then understand. It's when you listen, you don't necessarily always understand right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. You have to hear and hear and hear and listen and hear and listen and hear and listen and hear. And then once understanding can be achieved, then it's time for action. Okay. Now, I'm not saying don't go protest peacefully. Don't go do those things. Like, absolutely all about it. Support your brothers and sisters. But your keyboard is probably not your most effective place of truly affecting anything other than more division. Because, one, it seems very insincere, and almost social media profiteering, in a sense, right? Like, we're going to get out here and
pandering.
Yeah, now's the time. There it is. Pandering. Boom. Placating. I liked, that's a good one too, but pandering's good. Like, I'm not going to get out here and insult my black brothers and sisters by pretending like I've ever been profiled by a cop. I've never been pulled. I get off with warnings all the time, right? Like, it happens. Okay. And would that happen if I'm black? Well, I don't know. I've never been black. Okay. I'm not going to act like I understand what it feels like. Like I said, every day this week, I've lived in the majority my entire life. My goal is to understand and walk through this as Jesus would, right? Like, walk through this as a disciple or follower seeking to love and live a life that seeks and follows Christ on a daily basis. And so in that, like, I've learned in my Christian walk, in my spiritual life, like, I'm a talker first. And I oftentimes don't seek to hear or listen, or my wife will tell you that I will engage and really, really, really act like I'm listening, but not hear anything she says. And so I don't know, man. And we're gonna have to shut this one down here because we got 6 minutes left. But it's one of those things where I've just seen a lot of that, and maybe the last 4 minutes of this segment is a little ambiguous to some of you, and maybe I didn't do a great job. I feel like I just danced around it for the last few minutes, and part of me is saying that's probably the right way to go about it for a little while anyways. But if I could sum it up, like, white people, you don't get it. Okay, you don't.
Well,
You don't.
there's no. Well, I would agree with that. I think, and I would even say that even my thoughts on this, even from talking to you, have softened a little bit, right? But I think one of the things that irritates me is it's like, yeah, I don't get what it's like being black,
Hmm.
but no black person gets what it's like being white either. And I'm
But what
not
does
saying
that
that
mean?
I don't know, other than I'm not saying that it makes I'm not saying that we don't have an easier life. I'm saying that in any situation, nobody else knows what it's
Correct.
like being you, right? So, and I think to myself, when you say, walk like Jesus did, and you and I would both admit that we are still, pieces of clay in the
Oh
in the
yeah,
potter's hand, right?
yeah.
100%. We're
Pretty
being
rough.
formed.
Pretty
I will
rough too.
change.
Yeah. I don't even
I will
have like I
change
don't
in the
even have
next
like the
year.
cup thing in it. Like I'm still the ball.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
I'm still the block that comes in that's being shipped from FedEx, right?
Yeah.
No, but I I just think that we put a lot of time and effort in saying, I've had a
Hmm.
lot of people on Facebook say, almost make statements like this is what Jesus would do. And I'm like, when Jesus came into the world, he came to the Pharisees, which is what I think that we are, and he completely rocked them. It's like, well, let's do this. And Jesus is like, why would you do that? That's stupid. That's what I felt like he said. So I just feel like in this situation, we might be very shocked about what actually Jesus would do. And if we just spent maybe an inkling, and this goes for me too, an inkling more time of really trying to understand the other side,
Yeah.
maybe this would be fixed a little bit more
Well,
quickly.
and that's the key, and that's where again, like, be slow to post and quick to read. It's almost like you have to translate this to the social media culture because, you say be slow to speak and quick to listen. Like that doesn't even really translate because we don't hardly talk anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we all text or we tweet or we Instabox and Twittergram and all that stuff and the Facebox and whatever else. Like you.
So next segment is technology from the devil.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, go ahead.
But no, I mean seriously, like be slow to type and quick to read because a lot of you that think you're helping and well-meaning, well-intentioned, I hope you're not just pandering and placating, but you're coming off real insincere and you're coming off looking pretty stupid in a lot of ways because I tell you what, just go look and see who the people are that are liking and sharing and commenting. And if they all look like you're that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because our brothers and sisters, this isn't a Facebook thing for them. They want to see real life change. They want their lives to actually physically change. And our responsibility, white people, is not to just post about it on Facebook. Our responsibility is to do something about it. And
so what do we do?
well, I mean, I don't know that answer. But I know I do know that answer. Right now, what we do is we listen. We seek to understand the stories and the struggle and whatever it is, because until we know what the real problem is, I mean, look, police brutality, widespread racism. Okay, I got it. But that's like saying that's the girl at the beauty pageant saying world peace. Like let's dive. I'm not a big picture guy. Like I am, but the big picture. I mean, I've wanted to be, a business owner for years and years and years. Well, it didn't happen until I freaking figured out that first I had to go to the website and get an LLC, and then I had to do this, and then I had to do this, and only 5-6 years later do I have a business that, you know what I'm saying? Like, so the answer is, Ronald, we listen, we understand, we figure out, we try really, really hard and sincerely to understand what it is that our black brothers and sisters are going through and what it is that they want us to do about it. Like how can we, because you're not a cop, I'm not a cop. We can't do anything about it. I don't wear a badge. But what I can do is I can support them in ways that I feel would be beneficial to what it is that their hurts and pains are. What I won't be doing is supporting riots and looting and those types of things because crime repaying crime's never the right thing. So I don't know, dude. Maybe that's the next segment. The next time we talk, like what do we do about it?
Well, I mean, I can tell you one thing. If it stops with talking, if it stops with listening, this is going to happen again next year and the year after that.
Fact.
I mean, and I mean, I will say also too. I mean, we will always have hatred,
Sure.
racism,
Well,
bigotry in this world, right? But how do we? Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, no, Jesus is definitely the answer. But I mean, I think that I don't know. I definitely want my black brothers and sisters to know that I want it to get better to where if this does happen next year, that they don't feel like we're as tone deaf. I definitely want that to happen. 100%.
Let's
I don't know how to get there.
let's hope it doesn't happen again next year. It will, because like you just said, evil is evil. Look, here it is. It's Thursday. It appears as though our first day on the radio will be postponed by 1 week. So it looks like next week you'll be stuck with me here in the studio, and then the following week we will end up on the radio. So that's just some issues on timing and contracts and other stuff. So anyways, guys, we love you. Ronald, as always.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. We will talk to you guys soon. And Connor, as always, thank you for your time. Peace out. Take it away, big guy.